The heart that chose love. The evening sky over Willow Creek shimmered in soft shades of lilac and gold when Adrian Solace stood at the entrance of the quiet lakeside house where his fiancée grew up. His palms were damp, not because he was afraid of her parents, but because everything about this moment felt too important. Tonight was the night he would ask for their blessing to marry their daughter, Elara Winslow. Adrian wasn't born into wealth, nor did he possess the kind of polished background that many parents admired. But he had something rarer: patience, gentleness, and a heart shaped by resilience. He had worked for years as a trauma recovery paramedic, saving lives in silence, carrying stories he never spoke aloud. It wasn't glamorous, but it was meaningful, sacred even. Elara always said she loved that about him. She would tell him his soul was made of light, even though he felt like his life was made of night shifts, emergencies, and exhaustion. Tonight, he hoped her parents would see that light too. A house full of expectations. Inside, the Winslow home felt warm and elegant. Family portraits on the walls, polished floors, soft jazz playing from the living room. Elara's father, Magnus Winslow, greeted Adrian with a short handshake. Her mother, Serafina Winslow, offered a polite, distant smile. Elara squeezed Adrian's hand under the table, whispering, "Don't worry, just speak from your heart. They'll hear you." Dinner passed slowly, filled with polite questions, careful answers, and the weight of expectations hovering in the air. When plates were cleared and tea was poured, Adrian gathered his courage. He stood. His voice trembled at first, then steadied. "Mr. and Mrs. Winslow, I love your daughter. I've loved her since the moment she told me she wanted to spend her life doing good for this world. She makes me stronger. She makes me better. And I want to give her my whole life in return." Elara smiled, her eyes shining. But Magnus's expression hardened, and Serafina's fingers tightened around her cup. The words that broke the room. Magnus leaned back slowly, his voice calm but cold. "Adrian, we respect what you do, truly. But our daughter deserves security, stability, someone with a career that can support a family, not a man who spends his nights in ambulances and barely gets sleep." Serafina added softly, "You're a kind young man, Adrian. But kindness is not enough." The words struck like winter wind. Elara gasped, whispered, "Mom, Dad, please don't." But Magnus continued, his tone firm. "We can't give you our blessing. We simply can't." Silence filled the room, heavy, cruel. Adrian felt his heart beat slow, a pressure growing in his chest. Not anger, just a deep, quiet hurt. Elara stood beside him instantly. "If you don't approve," she said, "then we'll still marry, because I choose him." Her voice broke slightly, but her hand did not leave his. Adrian looked at her, so brave, so certain, and in that moment he knew. This woman was his home. He bowed his head toward her parents. "Thank you for your honesty," he said quietly, "and I'm sorry I've disappointed you." Not another word. He took Elara's hand, and together they stepped outside into the cool night. The choice they made. The months that followed were both the hardest and the most beautiful of Adrian's life. Elara moved with him into a small sunlit apartment near the river. Life wasn't luxurious, but it was filled with love. Sunday breakfasts, evening walks, handwritten notes on the fridge. Laughter that warmed the walls, tears they shared and healed together. Adrian continued his work as a paramedic, but with a sense of renewed purpose. His dedication grew. His reputation grew. One evening, after a large-scale accident in the city, a news report aired a story about the paramedic who had saved 12 lives that night through sheer will, calm leadership, and knowledge that surpassed training manuals. His name appeared on every headline. Adrian Solace, the man who brought hope. People began calling him the anchor in chaos. A local foundation nominated him for a humanitarian award. A research hospital offered him a leadership position in emergency response development, a role that not only changed his life, but allowed him to train hundreds of young medics across the state. His work began transforming communities, and the city saw him. The world saw him. Eventually, so did the Winslows. The day everything softened. It was late autumn when Magnus and Serafina finally gathered the courage to visit their daughter and her husband. Adrian opened the door first. He froze, surprised, tense, but polite. Elara appeared behind him, breath-catching. Her mother stepped forward, eyes soft, voice trembling with guilt. Adrian, Elara, may we come in? They sat in the living room. The Winslows looked around, noticing the warmth, the framed photos, the woven blanket Elara loved, the peacefulness of a life the two had built together. Then, Magnus rose to his feet, voice low and unsteady. Adrian, I owe you an apology, a real one. We were wrong. We judged you by what we thought mattered, not by what truly does. We didn't see your strength, your character, your heart. But the world does, and more importantly, our daughter does. Serafina wiped her eyes softly. We're proud of you, both of you. And we're grateful that Elara found someone who loves her so deeply. We see now that you give her a kind of happiness money can't measure. Adrian felt something inside him loosen, something that had been tense for months. He stood, walked toward them slowly, and said quietly, "Thank you. Those words mean more than you know." And then it happened. Magnus stepped forward and wrapped his arms around Adrian, firm, sincere, fatherly. Serafina joined, placing a hand on his back. Then they pulled Elara into the embrace. 4 people, once divided by judgment and fear, now held together by forgiveness, humility, and love. Elara whispered through tears, "I'm so glad you're here." And Adrian, holding his wife close, whispered back, "So am I. Finally, we're all home." Love is not measured by status, wealth, or titles. It is measured by the courage to choose each other, the humility to admit mistakes, and the wisdom to see the heart, not the surface.